Let's dive into some Hong Kong martial arts films. We got a really interesting question about 3 films from the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, someone's asking if The Falling Sword, Broken Blade, and Outlaws of the Marsh, A Better Tomorrow represent like the peak of traditional martial arts cinema.
Well, that's where things get interesting. The source actually argues that those films don't really fit the traditional mold at all.
Oh,
Okay.
So right off the bat, we've got a twist. So what makes a martial arts film traditional then? What are we even talking about here?
Well, think about the Shaw Brothers era, from like the 60s to the mid-80s.
Right.
Lots of classic kung fu, stories about chivalry, a very specific style.
Okay, yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
So these 90s films, they're not part of that traditional wave. So what are they part of?
They're considered new martial arts films. This wave came out of Hong Kong's new wave cinema movement, which was all about pushing boundaries, trying out new stories, and like revolutionizing the way fight scenes were done.
Whoa, okay. So we're talking about 2 different movements here, 2 different styles.
Okay.
So then if these 3 films aren't the peak of traditional martial arts, what is? According to this source,
The source points to director KungFu and his films like A Touch of Zen, Dragon Inn, and The Drunken Master.
The Drunken Master, wait, wasn't that a Jackie Chan film?
Ah, yeah! There are actually 2 Drunken Master films. Jackie Chan's came later. It was his own take on it.
Oh, wow. So there's an original Drunken Master.
Exactly. The original stars Cheng Pei, and it's considered a classic Shaw Brothers film.
Wow, I did not know that. See, I'm learning already. Okay, so back to these 3 films we started with. If they're not masterpieces of the traditional style, what makes them stand out? Why are they worth watching?
Well, even though they might not be traditional, they each bring something special to the table. Like The Broken Blade. It has this raw and gritty tone, which was pretty different from the more polished look that was popular at the time.
So it's kind of pushing boundaries in its own way.
Yeah, exactly. Then you have A Cut of the Sword, which is known for having a tragic hero. It's very much in the style of director Cheh, who made a lot of dramatic, often violent films.
Interesting. So each one's doing its own thing.
Exactly. And then Water Margin, A Better Tomorrow. It really emphasizes brotherhood and righteousness, which adds a lot of depth to the action.
I'm starting to see Hong Kong martial arts in a whole new light now. It's like each film is part of this bigger puzzle reflecting different times and influences.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. Each film is a product of its time, and understanding that context really adds to the experience.
This deep dive has been so insightful already. We started with a question about 3 films, and now we're uncovering a whole history of the genre.
It's amazing what one question can lead to, and believe it or not, we've only just scratched the surface.
Wait, there's more to this world of martial arts film.
Oh, absolutely. And here's the really fascinating part. While there are clear differences between traditional and new martial arts films, there's also a lot of interplay between them.
Oh, interesting. So they're connected in a way.
Definitely, filmmakers often draw inspiration from the classics, but at the same time, they're always pushing the boundaries and trying new things.
So how do these 90s films, the ones that are part of this new martial arts movement, how do they connect back to the traditional films? Like, are they paying tribute, or are they trying to break away completely?
It's kind of like both, it's not a clean break. Some new martial arts films directly reference or even like reimagine classic stuff, like the new Dragon Inn.
Got it.
That was from 1992. It takes inspiration from the original Dragon Inn, the one directed by KungFu,
Right, yeah.
It takes that whole idea of the desert inn that's full of secrets and danger and gives it a fresh, stylish update.
So it's like a remix of a classic, kind of.
Yeah.
Like taking a familiar song and adding new beats.
Exactly. That's a perfect way to describe it. And even when they're not directly referencing older films, a lot of these new martial arts directors still weave in elements of traditional storytelling.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, think about that emphasis on brotherhood and loyalty that we see in a lot of martial arts films, or those stories about characters facing moral dilemmas. That stuff is still there.
Right, so even while they're experimenting and innovating, they're still acknowledging where it all came from.
Exactly. They're building upon what the Shaw Brothers and other pioneers established, They're taking it and expanding the possibilities of what a martial arts film can be.
That makes me think about how all art forms evolve. You can see those influences from the past, even as new styles and techniques come up. It's really cool.
It really is. It's like a tree growing new branches, reaching higher. But the roots are always there, This constant evolution is what keeps the genre alive. It's that push and pull between tradition and innovation, between respecting the past and moving forward.
This has been eye-opening for sure. I feel like I'm understanding Hong Kong martial arts on a deeper level now. But I have to ask, why is this distinction between traditional and new so important? What does it tell us about the evolution of Hong Kong cinema in general?
That's a good question. See, the emergence of new martial arts wasn't just a change in style. It reflected what was happening in Hong Kong society at the time. In the late 80s and 90s, Hong Kong was going through a lot of change, socially and politically, and that naturally influenced the arts.
So the films were kind of mirroring those changes, those anxieties and hopes of a changing society.
Exactly. Traditional martial arts films often dealt with straightforward themes of honor, duty, good versus evil. But new martial arts films started to introduce more complex characters, situations that were morally ambiguous, a sense of uncertainty that really resonated with audiences at the time.
So they weren't just entertainment, they were a way to process what was going on in the world around them.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that makes this period of Hong Kong cinema so interesting. It captures a really important moment in history, and it reflects those changes through the lens of action and storytelling.
Okay, so we've talked history, the differences between traditional and new martial arts, and even how society influenced things. But what about the films themselves? What makes them so captivating? Is it just the awesome action, or is there something more to it?
Well, the action is definitely a huge draw. But these films are about so much more than just cool fight scenes. They're stories about struggle, resilience, trying to find your place in a world that's constantly changing. Whether it's a lone swordsman out for revenge or a group of friends fighting for what's right, they tap into those universal themes that everyone can connect with, no matter where they're from.
And the visual style, too. The choreography, the cinematography, the editing, it's also striking.
Absolutely. These filmmakers were true masters. They knew how to use every aspect of film to tell a story, build suspense, create moments that are beautiful and brutal. They were always pushing the limits, experimenting with new techniques.
It sounds like these films were a training ground for some of the most talented filmmakers out there.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of the directors, choreographers, and actors who came up in Hong Kong cinema went on to have amazing careers internationally, bringing their unique skills to Hollywood and elsewhere.
That's so cool. Are there any specific directors or actors from this new martial arts movement that you think people should check out?
Oh, that's a tough one. There are so many great ones. But if I had to pick a few, I'd definitely say Tsui Hark is a must-see. He directed The Blade and Once Upon a Time in China, and he's known for his really visually stunning and inventive action sequences.
Ooh, that sounds great. What about John Woo?
Oh, John Woo is fantastic. He directed A Better Tomorrow and The Killer, and his films are really something else. They have this really operatic style, the action is super intense, and he explores these really deep themes of honor and brotherhood.
Awesome. So many recommendations to add to my list. What about actors? Who are some of the big names from new martial arts cinema?
Well, you can't talk about this era without mentioning Jet Li. I mean, his charisma, his athleticism, and just his sheer skill in martial arts made him a global icon.
Oh, for sure.
And then you have Donnie Yen, who's known for his incredible speed and power. He's been in some amazing films like Iron Monkey and Ip Man. The way he blends traditional martial arts with more modern choreography has been super influential.
Wow, you've given me a lot to think about. It's like this whole world of cinematic kung fu is out there waiting to be discovered.
Exactly. And the cool thing is, Hong Kong martial arts cinema is still evolving today. New filmmakers are coming up, pushing those boundaries even further, finding new ways to tell stories through action.
So this deep dive, it's been like a journey through time, exploring how this genre has changed. But it's also given me so many new things to explore. I'm definitely feeling inspired.
That's what's so great about a deep dive, right? It's not just about learning new stuff. It's about getting excited to learn more, to explore on your own.
Exactly. We've just scratched the surface here, but now it's your turn to dive in. Explore the world of Hong Kong martial arts cinema. Watch the classics, check out the newer films, and let yourself get swept away by the action, the stories, and the themes that have made this genre so enduring. You might be surprised by what you find. You know what's really cool about all this? Hong Kong martial arts films, they haven't just stayed in Hong Kong. They've influenced filmmakers all over the world.
Yeah, that's totally true. The impact is huge, for sure. You see amazing martial arts action in films from Japan, Korea, Indonesia, even Hollywood blockbusters. It's everywhere.
It really is. And that sharing of ideas, that back and forth between different cultures, it's made the genre even richer, right?
Totally. It shows how powerful film can be as a language. You know, the way stories are told visually, the choreography, the emotions, all of that can connect with people no matter where they're from.
It's like we're not just watching these films on their own, we're seeing them as part of a bigger conversation happening across the world, all connected by this language of cinema.
Exactly. And that's what makes these deep dives so great. It's not just about memorizing facts, it's about seeing things in new ways, opening ourselves up to different perspectives, and realizing just how powerful storytelling can be.
I love that. So we started with a simple question about 3 films, and we've ended up exploring this whole world of martial arts cinema. We've talked history, style, influences, even the deeper ideas behind it all.
And the thing is, we've barely scratched the surface. There's so much more out there to discover.
So, to everyone listening, keep exploring. Dive into the world of Hong Kong martial arts cinema, watch the classics, check out the newer films, and just let yourself be blown away by the action, the stories, and the themes that make this genre so special. You never know what you might find.